Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Welcome everybody to the Safina Society Nothing But Facts live stream after a long hiatus, the longest we've ever had. Main reason for the Australia trip and then our usual summer break. We always take a summer break, but this time we had a 1.5 week Australia trip, right? Before that, and we had Eid before that, right? So, but here we are, we're back and we're ready to go, and we are, as you can see, gorgeous new backgrounds. Thanks to a lot of people here, and thanks to the people who selected all the stuff and put it all together and gave us a palm tree theme, which is basically what, you know, connects our Safina. Or Safina is an ark. Some people don't know that, and they don't wonder why are you always putting an ark and there are seagulls, and because the Safina is an ark. It's the word Safina refers to an ark, or translates in Arabic as an ark. We're going to start with the serious stuff first, and then shift down to the recap, not down, well, I guess down under, to the recap of the Australia trip, right? And I'm hosted here by Omar behind the at the helm. We got Bay Area, high-tech Silicon Valley to my right, who was solving lighting problems earlier today. MashaAllah on him. We got Ali, the barista, who is also the head of La Cocina. He runs the soup kitchen now. Okay. And we got the Cinco H. All right. Hafiz, Hamza, Hussein, Al-Hanafi, Al-Hyderabadi. We got the Cinco H. You might all know him as Hamza Hussein in the chat room, or in the chat area. What do they call it? Chat room, chat area. The chat, just the chat. Okay. So you all see him there all the time. Hamza Hussein. Well, the Hamza Hussein is here in the studio. First time in Jersey?
First time in Jersey.
First time in the state of New Jersey. Okay. So, mashallah, he's here in the studio, and it's great to have him here. So let's get to the serious stuff right away. So, like, everything went down while we were off. So much crazy stuff from the assassination from the one assassination attempt to the successful assassination, right? So the Trump assassination attempt, which has sent some rabbis in a crazy frenzy because they have a verse in the Bible stating that the Messiah, the chosen Messiah of Israel, the Messiah of Israel does not have to be a Jew. I guess they're working things backwards, since the Persian ruler of Persia, the Khosrow, what do they call him, of Persia, he's a good king at that time. Remind me his name? No, of Persia at the time. He's the one who freed them from the Babylonian captivity. At the end of the 100 years that Uzair lived and died, in the Quran there's Uzair. He went from the Babylonian captivity, he went down to Jerusalem. Cyrus became ruler, and Uzair woke up and found Jerusalem beautiful. From it was nothing to be beautiful. Cyrus brought the Jews back, the Bani Israel, he ruled over Iraq too. So the Babylonian captivity, they were freed from that by Cyrus, which forced them to actually say, hold on, Messiahs could not be Jews. And now they're going crazy because there is a verse in the Bible that says the Messiah will be anointed and marked by piercing his right ear. So they went nuts when Trump got his right ear grazed. Now, I got a question. I got to be honest with you. If an AR-15 bullet gets your right ear, either it grazed you by millimeters, just to graze, okay? If it pierced your ear, if it hit your ear, it'll blow your whole ear off, right? So either it was literally a graze, like literally just a graze, or it was shrapnel. It hit something else, and then something else hit him. That's can't be sure. Well, it could hit something else, piece of wood, piece of plastic. Yeah, it's true. That's true. So, but it has to be very small graze. Anyway, so we started off with that, and we end up with Ismail Haniyeh's assassination in Iran. How did that happen? How does suddenly a country that is so locked down, right, get breached in this manner? Raises your questions. And all we're going to get is questions, okay? Not going to get any answers. Secondly, he was in Turkey. He was in Qatar. They couldn't get to him. How can you not get to him in Turkey or Qatar? Turkey is like swimming in political espionage and all that. But let me say an analysis that may not be very popular, but I think it's a good analysis. Netanyahu, he did a couple things in a very short period of time. Number one, his U.S. trip showed Israel, it was meant to show Israelis that he has full support. And this thing must have been orchestrated to give him an applause every half sentence that he makes. Right? He got in there, half a sentence, applause. Half a sentence, applause. The American president will not get this. He'll actually have to say something substantive, and then he'll get half the audience applauding. Okay. The whole thing is, there is like a puppet master, right? Came to see the guys who receive his payouts. So, he forced reassurances and buy-in from the U.S. at this time. Okay. And he got that. He got that full buy-in, full Republican Party, as many Israeli flags as American flags at the RNC. We're not a political commentary show, but this is so crazy. You have to talk about it. It's like you're living under a rock if you don't talk about it. And we're going to get to the Australia chip. We're going to get to actually Dini segments. And most importantly, we're going to get to the Dua of Wednesday. Then, right after that, he went after a target in Lebanon that the U.S. had beef with. The U.S. had beef with those targets. Okay? Now, accused of previous attacks on the U.S., which is meant to sort of signal that, we're together in this. What bothers you bothers me. If they attacked you, we're going to attack them. Because they're always they're always viewed as only the recipients. And I asked that previous question, how many Israeli soldiers were ever in the Iraq War or in the Afghan War? When Netanyahu in 2002, he's the one who lobbied for that Iraq War, but sent nothing. And then he went to Iran. And that breach in Iran also is must be a message to Iranians. If we can get to Haniyeh in your country, we can get to other people too. All right. As a result of this, all right, the war crime talk is now going to recede because Iran they have to have some kind of response. And once Iran responds, that's it. All the narrative shifts now back. So he wants to goad them into something. Either one of two things. Either he's able to say, I did it and nothing happens. Or he gets a reaction and then the whole world stage turns to the reaction. So you have to say that those are good chess moves in the political world that we're living in. Ismail Haniyeh, you got to keep in mind, he lost 3 sons on Eid and I believe 2 grandsons in a raid and an attack on a home in which they said his sons were there. So these Palestinian people in Gaza, they are experiencing they're personalities, their hearts, their iman is going to be categorically different to ours. Categorically different to ours. It's not they're dying in an earthquake, which would have been bad. You lose like 10 members of your family in an earthquake. That's a tough test. No, you're being killed dhulman and udwanan, and none of your neighbors are standing up for it. Well, let me also say this. Saud bin Salman has power. He forces or sort of forces American presidents to come to him every year. He had that warm and fuzzy meeting with the Chinese counterparts in China. Well, what was that? That's basically saying, oh, America, I'll be friends with China if you don't act properly. If you're able to talk to the United States like that, then people can only surmise that the reason that there's zero response to Israel is that you don't want to, right? Just don't want to. So that's a quick summary. Now, what else about the news that we missed? What did you say, Bash? Did you say something? You said something? The visit, Netanyahu's visit here made so many people so disgusted. And let me tell you about one of the best analysis I heard is that when Netanyahu came, Washington started to look like the West Bank. It was all guarded, all police, right? America started to look like that when he came here. In the meantime, when we were off, we also saw that Kentucky elected 2 senators, Massey and Paul. They don't want much funding anymore to go to Israel. Candace Owens is totally on fire, and her base is the Republican base, and she's all about why we send money to Israel. So it seems to me that the best analysis is that the Republican Party is moved mainly by donors, not by their voter base. And we know that, right? But it's the donors. Now, the voters may follow and imitate what they're being told to do. But I would say that most Republicans, regular people, they're in need. They're not doing so well. Why are our money going overseas? Half the Democrats avoided Netanyahu's speech, or they boycotted Netanyahu's speech. And it was Rashida Tlaib was the only one who stayed there. And I have to say, as much as I don't like to say anything good about her, it was a good thing that she did. Like, she had courage at least to stand with her sign at every moment, all alone, surrounded by how many? Was it joint or just Congress? It was just Congress, right? Just Congress and Senate. Okay, it was both. And you're surrounded. That takes a lot. I mean, not only that, you got to walk in, you got to walk out, and you're going to get glares. So that does take some courage. We have to admit that. And everyone else boycotted. But the fact that about half of the Democrats boycotted that speech. On top of that, Harris, which is another person that we don't say something good about, but you just say something good, which she distanced herself from the genocide that's going on, said we have to end it right after her meeting with Netanyahu. It's showing that there's some cracks in the system here, right? It's no longer as unilateral as we thought. And we got to pay more attention. We got to give more attention and focus towards those people who are talking about ending this aid and ending this genocide, right? Because clearly they have some degree of independence. They're not totally played with. Also listened to an interview with a human rights, someone who worked in the government as a worker, not an elected official, and had was part of the delegation that all resigned. And she was saying that she works in human rights, and any time that they're working on a document where it had anything critical of Israel, it got a note. I think we need to take this off. We need to de-escalate this language, or sometimes completely deleted, right? Completely deleted. Also, so we're going to see what's going to happen now with Iran, and I really think that in the next 5 years, they're going to go to war with Iran. They got to go to war. Someone came up with a theory that could possibly be true, that the Haniyeh was given up to de-escalate the Iran thing, to at least give Netanyahu something to say. He needs something to say. His country is 75% against him. 75% are against him. They want him to resign. Not because of the genocide. They're fine with the genocide that October 7th happened to begin with, and that he wasn't able to win this war. Like, you didn't get your hostages back. The world has turned on you. Alleged quote-unquote anti-Semitic, which is mostly probably 90% is not anti-Semitic, is just truth. Anti-Semitic truths, should we call them that? Anti-Semitic truths are through the roof. Right? So in what way did you win this war? Right? In what way did you win the war? You lost. If you didn't win the war, then you lost the war. There's no other way, right? You didn't tie. I would say that the losses that the Palestinians faced, maybe that's the only reason you're going to say we can't say that Hamas won the war. They faced losses that are insane. What's the number at now? Since reaching into the 50s now. How about the polio is now becoming, the World Health Organization put out that polio is becoming rampant again in Gaza. This is a sickness that you wouldn't ever want to see come near your family again. And a lot of people who are against vaccines, people have their own opinion, but that's a pretty good thing that vaccines did, right? Why was polio eliminated? Do people understand what polio causes, right? Maybe some people don't really. It's been so long and you never met anyone with polio, so let's give everyone a quick summary of what polio does to people, so people don't realize that this is polio. The polio virus destroys nerve cells in the spinal cord, resulting in paralysis. You want your child to be paralyzed? So we eradicated this sickness through vaccinations. Well, now that, of course, they don't have access to anything. All right? It's transmitted through contaminated water. You come in contact, and we know that they're drinking from puddles. We know that the kids in Gaza, or now wherever they are, okay, as Chocolate Wallet tells us, that the unofficial count is in the 90s. It's in the 90s.
At one point, it was like one person. At one person, it was so low in the world.
It was so low in the world. Nobody used to get polio. You never hear about it.
You stopped hearing about it for like 20, 30
Yeah.
years at this point.
All you hear about it is that there was an American president who had it.
Yeah.
Who was, what's his face? FDR. Roosevelt had it. So polio is now on the rise in Gaza because of this. Is this not like a war crime? Right? It's a total war crime. All right. Another thing I wanted to mention was in 30, 40 years or less than that, where are all these American politicians who are cheering on Israel because of how much they received? How much money they receive for their campaign? Where are they going to be in 20 years when all the documentaries come out, all the facts come out, right? Yeah. And you mentioned Nuremberg, and he mentioned 90K. I don't want to say something that's so off the wall, but it's been painted as off the wall. 6 million is not the right number. Talk about Nuremberg and the Holocaust. That is not close to the right number. Okay? It's not close. Because a guy literally did the math on how much time it would take from the day one of the war to the end of the war, which that's not when the killing was happening. Killing was just interspersed in between. But let's say hypothetically they worked 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah. And no one took off. No one slept. Worked all day and all night. The guy calculated that it wouldn't reach 1 million. It would not even reach 1 million. I have the calculation somewhere. I'm not going to bring it up because they'll shut down our channel. We know that. We know they'll shut down our channel. Or they'll shut down something. So we need to talk about it. But These numbers are just increasing and increasing, and that's just this one incident. At all the previous since 1948 going on. So now I was listening to Ritter. I like Scott Ritter, but I have to say that sometimes I feel that the volume's always up with him. Like everything is on the edge at all times. Firstly, I like the stuff he's saying that's on the edge. Like he's saying one thing I totally agree with. He says Zionism is dead. Judaism isn't dead. Judaism is diametrically opposed to Zionism. Actual true Judaism, according to the Torah Jews, who I have a lot of respect for. I said this many times before. I have a lot of respect for these. These guys go by the book, and that's it. It's a very un-Jewish thing to do. From what the reputation. The reputation is the book says this. Let's see how do we get around it, right? But these guys, I respect them. They take the Talmud. They take the Torah. This is the book that we come to believe in, and that's what we're going to go by. I don't care where the world is going. They could care less about the whole world, these guys. They will go with the Torah that they believe in, and I respect that. I respect these principled and textualist types of people. But they're totally dead against Zionism. You go to Lakewood, New Jersey, which has more rabbinical schools than Tel Aviv by itself. Look up the stats on Lakewood, New Jersey. Oh, are you doing something important? Oh, he's Silicon Valley. Don't waste his time. He's making some money over there. And helping other guys make money. But look up the stats on Tel Aviv, on Lakewood, New Jersey. I drove through Lakewood the other day because I was driving past it. You do not see a single Israeli flag in Lakewood, New Jersey. Not a single Israeli flag. They're against it. Okay? They are against it. You go to certain parts in New York where the Satmar, did I get it right? The Satmar group practices. Not a single flag for Israel. Judaism is not at stake here. Judaism is not at stake. Zionists could care less about Judaism. These are secular nationalists, wannabe nationalist Europeans from Eastern European who got kicked around by the Russians, the British, the French. Everyone kicked them around. And then so they started their own copy-paste of European nationalism in a Jewish flag. And then who was the helpless people at the time? The Arabs. No one's going to care what you do there. There's no cameras there. No one's looking there. So have a playground over there and do what you want over there. A study of Jewish community published under the auspices of the Berman Jewish Data Bank estimated that Lakewood had a total of 54,000 Jews in Lakewood, 59% of the township. And all of them are Orthodox. Okay. There's only 90,000 people in Lakewood. More than half are Jews. But I don't mind that. Because what kind of Jews are? They're Torah Jews. They are anti-Zionist Jews. And they may, if there's like a conflict, they probably will support the Jew, but they don't support Zionism. In the same way, if a guy comes to a masjid who has views that I disagree with and people start to bother them, I will say, I support this Muslim, but I just don't support his beliefs. Okay? So these guys are complete anti-Zionists. That's why Judaism is fine. It's going to survive. Judaism is independent of a state. And it will remain a faith on the earth. But it's Zionism that we have to say is dead. It is not going to fly. You've killed. It's just such a mess. When the Soviets fell, you could say communism lost, right? That's what the whole world said. They will not establish a country from new now on communism, right? The TV got someone touched the remote on the TV, and now we're watching some weird show. Top Gear UK. Never heard of it.
I'm sorry. You got it? Yeah. Me and the guys, we went to the beach.
Yeah.
Long Branch, right?
Yeah.
And mashallah, they have a very strong Jewish population,
Huge.
Orthodox,
Huge.
right?
Huge.
I'm walking around. This guy comes
Yeah.
up to me. He's like, I want you to know, I can tell you guys, because we prayed Fajr over there.
Yeah.
And he comes up to me. Basha, I think you saw this. He comes up to me. He goes, I want you to know, as you as a Muslim, free Palestine, and he just walks off, just to prove the fact that he's supporting.
So many of my friends wanted me to comment on the stream about the French or German kid who was talking soccer.
Oh yeah.
How hilarious was that one, right? He's talking soccer, and Israel Mali, I guess they played, right? And the guy did nothing, right? He's just talking about the game, and then they get in his face so badly that the guy turns into pro-Palestinian on the spot, right? So Scott Ritter, I agree with him. He says Zionism is a dead thing, okay? But he's also saying you got to be aware of what they call it, the Samson directive, which is, Samson, of course, is a Hebrew character, a person in Hebrew history. Samson and Delilah. And I can't remember exactly his story. Is he the one with the hair? I think he's the one with the hair. God gave him great strength, great faith, and wonderful hair. And his power was connected to his hair. So once he got his hair cut, he lost his power. That's a story, right? I mean, it's told as a true story with all sorts of religious miracles and all that stuff. So, but point being is that's when they panic and they go nuclear. I just don't see how you're going to go nuclear without getting hit back. If you go nuclear locally, Lebanon, where is the wind going to take all that stuff, right? So that doesn't make any sense. Could they do that in Iran? That's possible. But that is a doctrine that they have. They have some crazy doctrine. The Hannibal Directive, you're aware of that one? That if needed be, you kill your own people. So the Samson doctrine. So in the last 24 hours, Gaza, they killed off a Gaza ceasefire. Why? You can't have talks when the chief negotiator is dead. So they killed, all ceasefire is off the table now. Risk dragging the U.S. into a regional war, which is not risk. They're cooking that up. War with Iran. You just see every important person has sort of green lighted. Well, if they do that, yes, we definitely. Every important politician. And I think they say that thing to signal to some dark suits somewhere else that they have to report to that, yeah, we're on board. Well, we're going to do your bidding for you. Okay. And Washington is enabling this. This is recklessness. We're literally never seen an empire controlled like this on a path of utter self-destruction. Do we have anything else to say? Summary of the what's going on here? Is there anything else that we need to we're not your source of political commentary in the first place, but we have to talk about it. There is severe civil war. It was before, actually, October 7th. They were literally on the edge of civil war. And it had to do with the courts, and it had to do with mandating the male students of knowledge of the Jews to enter the army. And in their religion, that's not allowed. The man who is a student of knowledge studies the Torah from morning to night. He neither works nor does he serve in the military. This, I have to say, is a complete tahrif or complete twisting of the male's nature. That will not be a happy guy. You think you're happy studying all day, but nothing gives a man meaning more than having a household to be responsible for. He'll grow up if you give him something to grow up that he could drop. But it has to be of his choosing. So that's why if a male chooses a wife, a man chooses a wife, that's your choosing now. And now you produce the kids, natural result of that. Now he cares. And you get a silly guy becomes a man. Right? Any one of you guys gets some money, chooses a woman, and now starts having kids, and now is responsible, you change. You become far more mature than you used to be. All your thinking is now on serious matters. In this case, those men, I feel bad for them. They've been duped in life. They're taught only study the Torah and absolutely nothing else. So he doesn't work even. And the woman has to respect this. Now she works as a nurse. I mean, they got to eat somehow, right? She works as a nurse. She works as who knows how she works when they have all these kids too. No birth control. How does she work? So she has all these kids. and she works. And what are you doing? Studying the Talmud and the Torah all day and all night. And you never sweat. You never get tired. You go to the synagogue and hang out with the guys. Right? That's what he's doing.
Does the government not fund these students?
Does the government fund them? They get funding, I'm sure, from the religious endowments, right? But is it enough, or do they? She still probably has to work.
So they are married,
They get married.
But he's still like studying.
He doesn't have to sustain.
He never will lift a finger to do a job.
Oh my God.
Is this not a warping of the fitrah? It's a warping of the fitrah. And if you want a man to grow up, let him have responsibilities of his own choosing. That's got to be the key. You can't say, here, son, I want you to grow up. Take this valuable and expensive thing. I'm trusting you with it and go. No, it's not of his choosing. You gave it to him. Not going to care for it as much as something that he bought for himself. Right? And that's the key here. All right. Let's move on from talking about Israel. Let's talk about rats at the Olympics. How weird is that? How weird of a news story is that? How the 2024 Olympics is fighting its tiniest foe, the rats. So there was apparently some severe rains. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
And the rains caused
Flooding and the rats came upwards, basically.
Yeah, how crazy is that? Right?
With the Israeli delegation.
Yeah. So the rats are, they say, size of cats, apparently.
What?
Yeah. How crazy is that? Anyway, that's just a little side note. That's not a story we're going to talk about.
You want to talk about their opening?
Huh?
Their drag queens, this and that.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the whole world is when they had drag queens in the opening. Oh, I didn't see that mocking Prophet Isa.
Last
Supper.
Oh, are you serious?
And it was done by all drag queens. And it was
All I saw was that the guy who designed that is Israeli Zionist,
fair.
right?
Why not?
Yep. And I didn't even see the opening because it's not live streamed, right? You have to have NBC. I don't have NBC. Is it NBC that has the Olympics? Everything's pay-per-view, so I'm not doing that. So when my mom wanted to watch the Olympics, and she likes to watch the somersaults and all that stuff, and so she watched Simone Biles, right? And she's like the best in the world now, maybe the best ever. There was Nadia Comaneci before her, and now maybe she's even better than her, maybe, right? And so she ended up just watching the highlights later. But anyway, but I mean, I did actually see, some of the flips and stuff, some of the athletes. But the thing is, it's as amazing as some of these flips are, and these things are, it's the same thing, right?
I don't understand what they're rating.
Yeah. I guess everyone would say the same thing. A Steph Curry three-pointer. It's the same thing, right? A home run. Like, what is so good to watch it? Once you've seen a home run, you've seen them all, right? But for the people who love the sport, they see the intricacies. They see them doing it over and over and over. It's the same jumps. It's the same landing, right? But that's from somebody who doesn't care. See, you know what? It's funny because when you're distanced from something, everything of it is the same, right? You don't see why anyone would do this again, right? In any sport, it's like that. Even in ilm, right? You're going to listen to this class. Like, I could listen to a sharh of Jawharat al-Tawheed. I could listen to it 10 times, right? I'll listen to it over and over from different shuyukh. I want to listen to it from all different shuyukh because you love it, right? You just love the different little flavors that each one puts in it. But people are like, okay, you studied it. You know La ilaha illallah. What else is there, right? But that's the bias of being distance. So in any event, let's move on now to welcome our latest subscriber, Salim Ocasio. Ahlan wa sahlan. Ahlan wa sahlan.
I think there's a benefit in the books that you're saying. Like flips, come on, like you're just watching flips. Okay, I can get maybe if you compared like the different classes on a book to like a football play or like a soccer play, because those are actually fun to watch. Like you have a bunch of different scenarios, you know what I mean? Like so maybe that, but like come on, like a flip, or like a home run.
team sports.
That's one action. It's not like a combination of like a play. You know?
I got you.
Like
You're
a
saying
football play. I could
a football play, a basketball play, a hockey play, a soccer play. Everyone is going to be unique. A home run It's the same.
There's one
Well,
you
guy
hand
at
them
the
off.
plate and he swings. You don't even get to see the whole thing because they have to pan over and the ball's halfway out already. But so that's one thing. But gymnastics, I actually get stressed watching those. So I there, my parents were watching the Olympics and they're watching the highlights of the men's. I'll tell you why I get stressed. These guys do jumps and the landing, especially when they do the run up and then they flip over, they bounce, they jump, flip over that horsey thing. It's a horse. What do they call it? Do they call it the horse? I'm making my in elementary school. They call it the horse. He runs up. He jumps on the thing. There's like a rectangular object, and he holds on to that, and he flips himself over. Right? He catapults off that, and then watching the landing to me is like stressful, because when they mess up, you just feel so bad, right? And there was a Korean guy in one of the highlights of the past competition who just went flat on his face. Like he totally missed the somersault, the 360s. He did 1, 2. He meant to do 3. He did 2.5. Landed flat like a squirrel, right? It's like sad to see.
You got like one chance to do it too.
Yeah. You got one chance and that's it. And you did all 4 years training and that one flip. Yeah. All right, let's now turn to other matters related to our Australia trip, folks. Australia is an awesome, awesome country. I'm telling you right now. If you ever have the money and you ever have the ability to go to Australia for a vacation, Sydney, it's a gorgeous city. It's probably one of the prettiest cities you'll go to. The restaurant scene. They took us to some Lebanese brothers, right? An amazing restaurant, these guys. Every day they check it as a different coffee shop and a different Lebanese shop, because it's mainly Lebanese in the area that I went to. And so they did really well there. And I had gone there in 2015 and 2016. And one of the assistants who was just helping out as a student, he's now in charge of the operation. Right? So it's nice to see these Shabab youth coming up. So let's go to the first picture here. This is a meeting with one of the Ba'alawi Mashayikh. He's a Palestinian student of Dar al-Mustafa. And he had a beautiful majlis. That was our first majlis the day that we arrived. We went there in Sydney. Very blessed little small gathering, small space, but you could feel very blessed. It was very nice. And by the way, it was winter there, but it was not cold. It was like fall for us, what we would consider fall, but for them it was winter. All right, so that was the first trip. Next. Here's some video footage. All right, so Mizan, that's that place to go. If you're ever in Sydney, Mizan is the spot to go. That's where it's run by Malik, young Sheb from Somalia, who's now the leader. He's in charge, right? And I always joke with him. I said, "Now he's the captain. You know the Somali scene. I'm captain now, right?" Well, I said that joke to him like 2 times. Now that he's in charge, right? But to me, it was a really good vibe, really good group of people. Of course, you only swing by. There's not much to you can't really see so much in one night. But these events, when they pull out a lot of their community members, you get to see what the community is like, and I was really impressed. Really good team, really good group of guys, really great feelings, and great vibe, and people who are trying hard. So may Allah bless them. Mizan. Mizan is a great initiative, but I couldn't help staring the entire time at the location of the 2 dots of the yet in Mizan. If you look there, I'm like, I can't help. Those 2 dots got to be over to the right a little bit. All right? Am I right about that? Those 2 dots are too close. They're not. Firstly, there's empty space on the right. Secondly, the yet is on the right. So unfortunately, they printed all the material, but nonetheless, you go over to the right a little bit. It's called Mizan Avenue. All right, next, there's the sheikh. If you want to study Aqidah and Fiqh, you study with that sheikh in Sydney. It's Palestinian. All right, next one. That's him there, what you're pointing to on the left with the blue. Yeah, you see Aqidah right there. Yep. Okay, next. Whoa. All right, again, next. All right, this one was a fun event. So this was the day that we had to leave Sydney, and we went to One Path, and you see their clips all the time, right? You don't know how much effort it goes in to make these clips, right? First of all, they have a 2 or 3 story building. All to them. The entire building, from the door to the toilet seat to the bathroom to the studio, is branded in their colors. Blue, it's teal, black, everything's teal and black. The whole, it's like so impressive. And they have 10 full-time employees. They have the sisters work in one section, the brothers work in another section. Because you gotta keep in mind that too. There could be a late nights and there's like one sister and 3 guys. So what are you gonna do with that? That's just because you get paid to do something doesn't make it halal, right? So, like a sister once asked me, "Can I be a waitress?" I'm like, technically it's a halal job, but what dad would want his daughter serving strangers every single day, right? Oh, but it's the job. Okay, so just because you get money for it doesn't change the reality of what's happening, right? And it's not any disrespect to women who end up being waitresses, but a lot of Muslim guys, if I had a volunteer in Safina Society, and I said your job as a volunteer is to come and bring us the drinks, bring us the coffee, clean up, the father would be very upset. It would be an outcry. The mother would be like, well, my daughter's not coming serving you. Who are you, right? So just because they get paid for it, it changes things. So in any event, so they had a male section, female section. I talked to those 2 brothers there who are the lead interviewers, and you see one of them there who's in the middle of the picture. He's the one who's in all the clips. He's one of their lead guys, and the other brother is too. And we had a nice, heartfelt talk. I'm surprised they put it up. I thought they would take out a lot of it. Right?
Mashallah, the video's amazing.
Yeah. They kept. I didn't watch the whole thing, but you can't tell if they cut clips of that. But there was some stuff that was pretty like, you're like, wow, shouldn't they cut that out? Right?
Yeah.
He's like, you're the rawest guest
Yeah.
we've had on.
Yeah.
So-
You're the rawest guest we've had.
I think they liked you a lot more because of that, because you
Yeah.
kept it 100% real.
Yeah.
Nothing but facts always.
That's
So-
how it was.
Give him a fax, go.
And when it didn't come out a week after I left, I was like, they're not putting it out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because I was
Yeah.
like, well, the doctor said it came back like a while ago.
Yeah.
And it's still
And they
not,
hadn't put it out.
When it did come out, I was like, this trip was a month ago.
I know it was like two, 3 weeks it hadn't come out, but that's what these professional organizations are like. Like if it's not time bound. Sami Hamdi's interview just came out. It was time bound. It's like political things just happened. We need to get this interview out right away. This wasn't really time bound because we talked about other subjects that weren't necessarily related exactly to a certain event. So I thought, they're not going to put it out there. And I said, usually you should be upset. You just wasted my time. But I was like, no, it's not a waste of time. It's always, when you say something, at least you're rehearsing it for yourself. And at least we saw these guys and met the guys. And I, but then when they put it out, I was happy they put it out. And surprised they put the whole thing out. But alhamdulillah. So they're that group, they're really professional. They're really good. Right? And when you go and you see the inner working, they have now a studio. So you see that studio right there. Behind that studio was almost stadium seating. Yeah. And stadium seating that can be collapsed. Imagine like cinema seating, but you can collapse them all into you can shrink the whole thing. Like an accordion. There's Nafiz, Mubashir, Ammar were there and sitting in those seats. But soon enough, they'll have an audience. Stadium seat. It's a big room. That room right there, that's the end of a big room. Or actually, I should say that's the corner. From behind me goes further out. And where the camera is goes further out. Huge room.
So they have it set up like a 90s sitcom kind of thing where it's a set,
Mhm.
big seating, live audience always.
Exactly. Not only that, here's the best part. The room comes out. If you can try to imagine here, at the end of the room, before you reach the end, sort of overcasting over the edge of the room is the executive seat with a big meeting table and a full glass wall where he could listen in and see what's happening, right? You know, like the commentator's booth in an NBA game or behind a radio,
Yeah.
right? When they're making music or the radio jockey's speaking and they have a glass wall and all the executives sitting back there and whispering stuff in his ears, stuff like that. So they have that there too. So that's on the second floor. So they're actually looking down at the studio. Very impressive. All the brothers putting one path together. So there is an example of wealth. And we met Mufti Adimuddin.
I thought it looked like
That is our man Muf. That's Mufti Adimuddin. Like, we always cross paths. It's amazing, but we're hardly able to talk to each other, right? Because our schedules are so busy. We cross paths in Dallas. We cross paths. Mufti Adimuddin is a person in Dar es Salaam. Anyone has a chance to sit with him, you go sit with him. His heart is connected to, he is in touch with the disease, the snakes of Iblis. I mean by that, he's always got his eyes open. What is Iblis plotting against us? What is the Dajjalic forces plotting against us? How are they attacking the Shabab? He's always thinking about that because that's the real harm. That's the real harm. Like I said, everything is teal, black, and gray. Even mouse pads, walls, everything, stairs, everything is branded with one path colors. Let's go now to the next slide. Next picture. So that's me writing something on a book. Next one. This was Jum'ah in Brisbane. So from one path, we went to a coffee shop for the guy who won the International Barista Award. I didn't know there was such a thing, but there's a playoff, a championship for baristas. This guy won it. And I'm telling you, there's a reason he won it. Firstly, you think coffee's coffee, right? Isn't coffee coffee? But when you drink a lot of coffee, you realize coffee is not coffee. There's coffee and then there's coffee, right? And this was coffee. And there were flavors you had never tasted before. And they find it, you go sit in this huge, gorgeous shop. And there are squares. There are 3 squares. In each square is a barista inside the square. And then it's almost like bar stool seating. And in each one is a barista. It's not a counter. It's a square. And you sit with your friends on one side, another group sits on another side, and the barista takes care of you all. The guy speaks a language you don't even understand. This was from this farm. It has notes of this and touches and flavors. And I'm not into that. I'm like, for me, it's just a binary. There's bad coffee and good coffee. That's, to me, I'm very simple when it comes to food. And I think that that's the right sunnah, actually. There is bad coffee and there's good coffee. So this was beyond good coffee. This was amazing. It was something that even if you're not a coffee drinker, you have to appreciate it. Something they do is different. It's an insult for them. You put a milk and sugar in your coffee. You drink it as he gives it to you. It's like when someone knows their craft so well, you don't touch it. I remember reading about Steve Jobs when he needed a logo for Next, which was one of his companies. He went to the guy who was the most famous logo maker in the world at that time. He had made the CBS logo. He had made, I think he'd done stuff for Gucci. I can't remember. He did a lot, right? Jewish guy out of Brooklyn. And they sat there talking, and the guy said, stop right there. Tell me your problem. Tell me about your company. You're going to get a logo when I'm done with it, and you're going to give me $50,000. This was back in 1996, right? That's all this interaction is, because this guy believes himself, and his record proves he knows graphic design, logo making better than anyone else in the world. I don't want to hear anyone's opinion, okay? But I have to say, he didn't make a good logo. The Next logo is not good at all, right? Do you guys know about Next?
The color X, like this.
Yeah, it says Next in a cube form.
And it's like multicolored too.
It was after
Terrible.
Apple, like, fired him.
Yeah.
And he was, like,
That's a terrible logo, right? Let me see. I don't like this logo at all. It's just, it looks like some 1980s kids made it, right?
It's very of the era.
Yeah. So he ends up these baristas, these people who are so dedicated to their craft. This is how they treat you. So we're not having a discussion. You tell me your issues. You tell me about yourself. You tell me what's going on. I will solve your problem. You're going to compensate me this, and we're not talking again. That's it. There's no edits. There's no nothing else like that. This guy was like the same thing. You don't ask for sugar. You don't ask for cream. You just drink it as he gives it to you.
And it's sweet.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, your tongue is wrong. Right? That's how these guys are treating it. So we went there. Then we hopped on a plane, and we went on a plane about 2 hours or so north to a city called Brisbane. And Brisbane is a city which is a very nice suburb, gorgeous suburb. And it was very different from Sydney in that it's more suburban. Sydney's a city, right? Sydney was filled with these tough Lebanese guys, which I feel so at home with, right? These Lebanese guys. It's almost like the exact AKG when we sit down for lunch after Jummah, right? And just talk and get loud. These guys are like that, right? Our group, you could transplant our group to their group and swap guys and no one would feel the vibe wouldn't change at all. So, but Brisbane, it's a suburban area. It's all families. Like Sydney is people, but this is just families. And mostly a lot of these families were from the Desis who moved to East Africa for tijara, for trade. And eventually, a lot of these East African governments said, you guys are making too much money, get out of here. And that's literally what happened to one of my hosts. His father and his family, or maybe just his father, but they went to a city and they just opened a supermarket. Very commonsensical business. And they opened a second one and a third one and a fourth one. Commonsensical stuff. Get stuff from the warehouses, sell it to the people. That's it. This is not rocket science. Well, within a few decades, they had so much money, right? MashaAllah for them. Good for them. But the king comes up one day and says, you got too much money. You're not one of us. Get out of here, right? Some of them went to England. Some of them came to Australia. Back in the day, the passport allows you to go in all these countries, right? So this families in Brisbane, they were very tight-knit families. These families in Brisbane reminded me of MBIC, our masjid, our community.
OGs, they've been here
Like,
before, yeah.
like families, but they're now the young families. The young and second generation now who are like us, maybe in their 30s and 40s, and they're having little kids and they're trying to do stuff. And that's what they reminded me of. So that was our first evening there in that picture there at one of the homes. We had a majlis on Thursday night. And then we went up to a beautiful rainforest. All right. I must be sneezing in this picture or something. I don't know what's going on. But Nafiz, by the way, is a top-notch AI. What is he in? Molecular, who knows what?
Everything, man.
What is actually the description of his work again? It's
I call him Dr. Saab. and
he
call it a
he codes models that can be used in the pharmaceutical business.
Allah.
That's what he does basically.
He's a genius.
But he's a genius. He is a genius. You know these Bengalis, right? You just when you meet him say, okay, what Nobel Prize are you planning on winning, right? That's how it is. So that's the view of where it was, and you see how it's really high up,
Yeah, do you remember the elevation?
really high
We
elevation,
were talking about it. It was like in the
really high elevation,
21,000.
gorgeous view. Yeah, gorgeous view. Next picture. All right, so that's after Salah apparently. Next one, and that's what the daytime it looked like. It was gorgeous out. Whole place was amazing. Next. So we had classes all day and all night, Saturday and Sunday. All day and all night, Saturday and Sunday. Next.
Was it
Hikam and Aqidah and Tasawwuf. Yep. And then we went back down to the city, back down to Brisbane, and we had an event at a really nice auditorium. Yeah, and that's the auditorium there on the devil's deception, the tricks of Iblis. That was a beautiful evening. And it was now we're reaching the end of the trip, and we had this. So in the rainforest, we ended up spending 2.5 days. Then we went back to Brisbane. We did this event. Oh, I owe them. Shoot, I owe them stuff. I owe them a shout out. Yeah, maybe we just do it here, and then we clip it. I owe him a shout out. See that MAA there? Yeah, I owe them a shout out. Let's see if I have the. Here are the notes condensed down of what MAA requested. All right, let's just do it now. Everybody? Oh, what happened to the remote again? Here, there, you're sitting. It's right next to you. Okay. We're just fixing the TV, folks. See, you guys see the stream. I see a TV here that has Omar's computer on it. And I get to see, you know, what he's clicking at, what's clicking next, and what's going on. Yeah, let's do a normal view. Shoot. I don't know what does MAA stand for. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I want to give this shout out to MAA International, which sponsored my trip and was one of my hosts in Australia. And they do a lot of great work. And this time, it's time now to increase that work and trying now to increase our efforts in supporting Gaza. MAA International does a lot of work for the people of Palestine. You can be a part of this by donating to them. You can be a part of this by just your dua for their work. You can be a part of this by raising awareness. We're raising awareness right here. MAA, Muslim Aid Muslim Aid Australia. This is the organization that does so much since 1989 and is committed to 50 countries. They have missions in 50 countries, which is an amazing number and it's an amazing feat. And they were part of putting together this tour that I did in Australia, and we want to see them succeed. So we know that this ummah has to be like one body. The Prophet ﷺ said, this ummah is kal jasad al-wahid. We are like one body. إِذَا اشْتَكَى عُضْوًا, if one limb suffers, if one limb is complaining, then the rest of the entire body stays up at night in fever and sleeplessness. And any one of our groups that's doing work, we need to pitch in a little bit to them. Pitch in a lot to them. So help out Muslim Aid Australia. This is a long overdue note to thank them and also to encourage everyone to support them. Jazakumullahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum. So that's, yeah, Muslim Aid Australia. I mean, they were huge.
Well, they sponsored the whole thing.
Not the whole thing, but a lot of it, or certain portions of it. Yeah. What minute are we on?
56.
Okay.
For the thing is 56:18.
Minute 56. We haven't even gotten to our subject matter here. Okay. Let's look now. Oh, so then we went to a beach house. Look at this gorgeous beach in Australia. What did they call? I can't remember what they called it, but it was gorgeous. The Gold Coast. This is the famous Gold Coast in Australia, and this is the winter time. Imagine now the summertime. Keep going. That's the apartment. Yeah, it's an apartment. Yeah. So that's the famous Gold Coast. Gorgeous. All right. All right, we can pass that. The fees being funny there. And then so the last day we're just sort of tired. There was one talk left, and they said, all right, let's just walk around the rainforest a little bit. And there was this area with all these unique birds, which was nice. That's one of the main hosts there and the founder or the leader of the Hikam in Brisbane. That organization is it's the lead organization there. If you're going to go to Brisbane, you're going to go through them. And they're the ones with the activity, Ahl Sunnah Aqidah. There's the other host, AK. Okay. That's Ammar. I have news about Ammar, but I'm not going to say it. Keep going. I'm not going to say. Now we went to a rainforest. Keep going. Rainforest was amazing. Like, you can't literally see 5 inches out That's how thick the stuff is. Keep going. That's Mubashir, yeah.
Rainforest, take a look.
And then
Give him
they
a
have
look.
this bridge. You walk over the rainforest.
Ryan, we made it to the rainforest.
How beautiful is that footage right there? It's a bridge in which you walk over the rainforest. Keep going. Keep going.
Reminds me of when the Sahaba like conquered other places.
Yeah.
Like the different climates.
Oh, yeah.
Like seeing trees.
Totally.
For the first time.
Yeah,
that were,
subhanallah.
Like,
Yeah.
greenery.
Yeah.
Weather they'd never seen.
Foods they've never eaten before. So, I wish we had taken some footage of the hanging out with the guys in Sydney, because that was a big part of it. Next segment I want to go to, and this will probably be the last segment before our dua, our QA, a little bit of a QA, then a dua. This segment has to do with the dowry in marriage. What is the position of the dowry in marriage? And let's go to of course, we always speak about from the Maliki school. Now, the dowry in marriage is an obligation from the groom to the bride. And it is an agreed upon amount of money. It's an agreed upon amount of anything of value. It could be a ring. It could be an action, a service. And it could be money. But it has to be something that can be objectively measured. And it's to be agreed upon. And it should be negotiated usually by the wali, not by the bride herself, because she may be embarrassed to hassle her husband-to-be. But her father would not, right? Her father would actually feel the opposite inclination. He wants to sort of not... It is a feeling of, I'm giving my daughter, I'm handing my daughter from my house to your house. From me being the main caretaker to you. So he is giving his daughter away. So he's not going to give her away cheap, even though this is not a sale. She's getting the money, not him, right? But he feels that he wants to make sure that this is done right. And he ends up, he'll probably negotiate better. Now, the Prophet ﷺ also advised the husbands, the father, the walis, the awliya in this case, to not make marriage difficult. Or else the shabab will not marry and then maybe do something worse, right? If they're stuck not being married. So that's the dowry. Now, what happens if people forget? It's possible. They forget to include the mahr in their marriage process. And they actually have a nikah, and out of ignorance, they're like, oh shoot, we never did a mahr. Are they adulterers? The answer is no. So this is a pillar of nikah that it can be forgotten. Can be forgotten. What cannot ever be forgotten, the wali in the Maliki school, as opposed to the Hanafi school, ijab and qabul, right? You don't have a contract, you don't have a nikah if you don't have those two things. So, two more things. One is the dowry, one is the witnesses. The witnesses are necessary for consummation. So, we're sitting in, let's say, the groom's house or in the masjid. Or sorry, the father of the bride's house. We're sitting in his living room. And he says, Wallahi, you're a good man. And we know you and we trust you and we're ready to marry. Someone says, why don't we marry right now? It's okay, it's just me. Let's say it's me, my daughter, and the groom, and my wife, right? Let's say, hypothetically. No witnesses, right? His mom, still not a witness. Need the male witnesses. So we say, okay, zawajtuka ibnati. I married my daughter to you. He says, qabiltu. Boom, they're married. But he cannot take her and go into another room. So now she could take her hijab off. He can touch her, but he cannot take her into another room. Consummation in Sharia refers to entering into privacy. Something where intimacy could occur. It doesn't have to be only that. For example, meet me in the woods. The woods is a public place, right? But intimacy could happen there. So anywhere where intimacy could happen, that is not allowed until there are witnesses, so that nobody can accuse these people. Nobody accuses them and says that they did this, that, or the other. So now in this case, they would say, for example, bring some, let's go to the masjid. They drive to the masjid. The man stands up. Oh, people, I testify to you, I have married my daughter to this man, and this man has accepted, and he agrees. Khalas. You've now made ishhar of it. Right? And so therefore, now there won't be doubts, there won't be accusations. Okay, so the witnesses is a rukn of the marriage that is only needed for half of the marriage, which is the consummation, not the contract. So he's contractually married to this, they're married, but they cannot consummate the marriage or act upon it until the community knows. Minimum of the community is 2 male upright Muslim witnesses. Now we forgot the dowry. And he consummated, we have witnesses, and they went alone. And they spent the night, and they went on a honeymoon. And oh my gosh, came back from the night, forgot the dowry. Are we adulterers? Are we fornicators? No, they're not. If they intentionally left it off, that's different. But they forgot about it. Or they said, let's talk about it later, and they forgot to talk about it later. So now they agree upon a dowry, once they remember. So 2 people, let's say they get married without a dowry. Or let's say they get married outside of Islam. Then they both convert to Islam, which, by the way, from North Carolina, we had a case like that. Not a case, but I met a couple like that. Brother just visited us here in New Brunswick last month. He entered Islam. His wife entered Islam. His kids also became Muslim, right?
Whole family.
Whole family is Muslim now. Amazing case. Not case. Okay, talking about it like it's an amazing story, I should say. Right? Yeah, amazing story. So what would he have to do? Does he have to remarry? Is this Christian? If he had a civil marriage, you have a Christian marriage, you have a Hindu marriage, the Sharia deems you to be married. You just have to fulfill the conditions now that you missed. So let's say he had gotten married, case like this, without a dowry. He'd just pay the dowry afterwards. They have to agree upon it. What happens if the marriage is already said and done, but they don't agree on a dowry? Well, as long as they don't agree on a dowry, the wife has the right to say, all right, don't touch me then. Yeah. Even if they agree and he refuses to pay it, don't touch me. That's why the dowry is important. Mahr, sadaq. It's called a mahr. It's called a sadaq. It could be called a dowry in English. I know in India, the word dowry means the reverse, so we have to be careful of that. Okay. So then our situation is there that they have to get an arbitrator who will inform them of sadaqul mithl. Sadaqul mithl refers to the average dowry. It's salary arbitration, basically. People of your likeness, what do they get when they get married, right? When they get contracts, right? Someone with your batting average and your stolen bases, right? And your years, what is he getting? And there's 3 guys very similar to you. They're all getting $5 million a year. This one's 4.9. This one's 5.2. This one's 5. You're going to get 5. That's it. So in the case that they forgot about the sadaq and they cannot agree on the sadaq, they go with sadaq and mithl and it becomes binding. Why? Because the marriage is already done, right? They're already consummated. So they should agree upon it, but if they cannot agree, then it's sadaq al-mithl, the dowry that is of her peers. So this girl has friends. The family has friends. They talk. That's why hanging out with Muslims, going to masajid, talking, making friends, having what you got called davits in your home, invitations. Call them dawats, right? Dawats in your home. And why? Because in those you chit-chat, you talk. And a'raf, customs, matters of opinion are learned. You can learn basically what is an average dowry to go by, right? So you learn these things. And guys will talk. They'll say, hey, listen, it's my first kid getting married. What do I do? Right? So these invitations, knowing people, having a huge contact list of friends in the masajid, going to these events, it helps him pick up the phone and say, hey, meet me for a cup of coffee. I have no clue what I'm doing here. Right? And someone clues you in. And the beauty of it is, let's say I'm not fully like this brother's advice on this matter of opinion. I'll go to another brother. Right? It's not even a religious opinion. It's just how to act in life. So you can go to 3, 4, 5 guys. All right, I see they're all saying this, but they differ on this. So therefore, I'll pick and choose what I want from this. But pretty much this is the norm. And that's how society moves. We all have similar understandings about things. So let's talk about some other things related to the sadaq, the dowry. It can be paid over time. A man says, you go and you marrying into a very wealthy family. It's not fathomable that you're going to marry maybe for, let's say, for under $20,000 dowry. That's easy in some communities. Certain communities, it's not that. That's low, by the way. That's low. That's low dowry in some communities. Yeah, there are some communities. Everyone's involved in certain industries that the baseline of that industry is you're going to be rich. It's only the difference whether you're rich or really rich. And the rich in those communities feel poor. They feel poor, even though they're rich. Okay? So in those situations, he can pay it over time. There's nothing wrong with that concept. So, all right, I'll give you, let's say it's going to be 10,000. I don't have 10,000, but I do have a job. I can afford, but I don't have savings to 10,000. All right, I'll give you 3 now, and I'll give you 1 on January 1st of every year for the next 7 years. Now that, let's say they do that. Let's say they get divorced in year 2. So he paid 4. He owes 6 more, right? Does he have to pay those 6 more than they get divorced? He does. It's a debt. It's a debt. If he dies, married or not married, we remove that immediately and we consider that a debt owed. It is a debt owed. Okay. So then the inheritance happens after the estate is just divided up afterwards. من بعد وصية يوصون بها أو دين. Right? So inheritance is divided up after the estate is divided up after bequests to non-inheritors, maximum 1/3, and debts. Understood? So just because the dowry is a lot doesn't mean you're gonna have it in the bank right away. So maybe $25,000 dowry. All right, five now, 5 next year, 5 the year after that, and so on and so forth. Now, what is forbidden in the Maliki school? Sheikh Abdul Hamid al-Mubarak has a strong lecture on this. Is mu'akhar al-sadaq. What is the mu'akhar? Mu'akhar is a concept. Hey, where's my hair? Omar is doing a thing. All of a sudden, I got no hair. Okay, so the mu'akhar sadaq is valid in certain madhabs, but in the Maliki school, they don't like it. Why is it? Or what is it, first of all? It is that if you divorce, you owe this much. If you divorce in year 1, you owe 20K. If you divorce in year 2, you owe 10K. If you divorce in year 5, you owe 5K. So on and so forth. Or in general, if you divorce, you owe 20K. So why is this? It's unlawful because it's actually harmful. Because let's say the man wants to get a divorce, he's going to lose his wife, half the time with his kids, probably half his house, probably half his salary for the rest of his life. And on top of that, he's going to lose 20K. He'll say, no, I'm not doing this. So what is he going to do? You want to get the checks from my car? The checkbook? Yeah. Okay, I'll let you up later. What's he going to do? He's going to say, well, my options in Sharia is for her to request a divorce. And then I didn't divorce her, right? Khula. How can I get her to request that divorce? Hey, that's a beautiful picture. That middle one right there. It's a bit dark.
No more red box.
Go click the back button there. Look at that. No, not that one. The next one. Look. You want a kangaroo? All right. Whatever you want.
No more red box.
Oh, no. He's got a new format. Omar got a new format. It was getting clicks. But your new format's getting clicks too.
This one looks nicer.
Yeah. So he'll bother her and bother her and bother her until she requests the khula. So that he doesn't have to cough up the 20K or the 25K or sometimes just ridiculous amounts of money. So you see, that's why Sheikh Abdul Hamid Al Mubarak, he says, in our madhab, we don't allow mu'akhir sadaq. And it's harmful to her. That's why he says that.
What's the difference between mu'akhar and just the paying over time?
Well, paying over time, you're paying it over. The difference is that this is a conditional one. If you divorce her, then you owe that. As long as you're married, you don't owe it. Right?
There's no baseline like in this case.
Baseline?
Yeah, baseline I paid this much and then yearly.
You anybody can do that. Anybody could say, "What's the dowry?" The man says 50,000. To marry my daughter is 50,000. Okay, here 50,000. I'll give you 20 now. I can give you 25 now. I'll give you 25 in installments over time. Up to when? It has to be limit. You can't have a contract that's just open ended. 25 in the future. No, it's got to be month and day of when the payments are going to be. In the mu'akhar.
Is there a basic sadaq and then upon that is that more
Yeah, they have a basic sadaq and a mu'akhar, and that's where that mu'akhar is the one that's debated. Yeah,
It's like a whole, almost like a whole separate dowry.
yeah, it's conditional. When you divorce her, you owe her this. That's what it is. It's conditional. Yeah, it's conditional. So that's why the ulama of the have discovered really that people, they avoid paying that, or they just won't pay it. At the end of the day, he's not going to pay it, right? So even effectively, it's not effective unless you actually got this documented in a contract and all. You know how hard it is to extract money from people, even when you owe it to them. Ladies and gentlemen, any other questions on the sadaq? Let's turn now to questions related to the sadaq, and then we will take a few short questions, and then we will.
You know that saying where
Yeah.
you shouldn't marry the girl if you can't keep her with her previous lifestyle from the family already.
Yeah, unless she
So
agrees,
also
though.
related to this?
Unless she agrees to that. Like, she says, yes, I agree that I'm going to go now live on a different salary. Yeah, a different life. Yeah. Does 3 talaq in one sitting equal 1 divorce? Well, according to Ijma' al-Sahaba, upon the ruling of Sayyidina Umar, it equals 3 divorces. Don't do it. Don't do it. Ibn Taymiyyah is the one who, I don't know if others did, but he said, no, I disagree with that. That was just for that time, and it's just 1. So that's a fatwa, but when we look at the fiqh, when you have ijma', it's not negated afterwards. Can't be negated afterwards. So we did have ijma' sahaba. That's why the 4 madhabs, I think Hanbali school too, does not go by that fatwa.
Is that what he went to prison for?
What's that?
Is that what he went to?
No, he didn't go to prison for that. I think he went to prison for saying that the nuzul of, I don't want to say this on the stream, but I'll say it anyway. He said that the nuzul of Allah is as me coming down from this minbar, right? And then he came down from the minbar of Jum'ah, and then that was one of the reasons, and Allah knows best if that's the accurate history, but that's what I heard is the accurate history. That's really why. Gamano, is Ash'ari kufr? In that case, Ibn Hajar would be a kafir, Imam Nawawi would be a kafir, Salah ad-Din would be a kafir, entire Ottoman Empire will be kuffar, or the other Maturidis, right? So the Ash'ari madhab in Aqidah is one of the 3 schools of thought in theology, in dealing with matters that came up after the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the companions, and the 2nd and 3rd generation. You have to think and answer these questions. Anywhere where you have to think and answer questions, that's where you need schools of thought, which people can agree or disagree. And it has been agreed upon that the Sunnis have accepted 3 different opinions on these matters, and these schools of thoughts are the Hanbali and the Ash'ari and the Maturidi. That's how we define Ahl Sunnah. For the scholars, a common person doesn't know any of this stuff, and he doesn't have to. Here's Salim Ocasio has a question. Does a civil divorce where the paperwork contains no explicit language of divorce, such as I divorced my wife, count as an Islamic divorce? And the answer is it would not. It would not. If it does not contain explicit language, I'm divorcing my wife, I agree to a divorce, then it would not count as an official divorce. Okay? No, it would not count. It has to have something clearly stated or understood that this is divorce. If we could say, because there is something called the divorce application. You can fill that out. She gets served. It's in the courts. You discuss things. That itself is not divorce. No. It's the step towards it. It's opening the file for the judge to arbitrate between you and then issue the divorce. Then you would sign off on that. Okay. Matic 365, what's your question? If you can find Matic 365, we'll answer that. In the meantime, House of Films. We have a member and subscriber from Nigeria. Or originally from Nigeria, or he's in Nigeria. And the Hausa, of course, being one of the 5 main tribes of that West African area, which is the Hausa, the Fulani, the Igbo. What are the other 2? Look up for me the 5 main tribes.
Does a khula need a witness? Sharia witness?
Of course. How does a khula work? I'll tell you how khula works in a second, after we respond to Hausa Films. What about a case of remarrying the same spouse after husband gives first talaq, past the iddah and legal proceedings? Okay. Husband gives talaq, the iddah, which is the waiting period. The woman cannot marry 2 different men except after a waiting period has passed, to make sure she's absolutely certain that there are no children, so that the fluids don't mix. Yes, they would have to do a new marriage and a new dowry and new witnesses. So man, let's say hypothetically, divorce his wife on January 1st. Iddah, it's 3 periods of purity. Let's say hypothetically we're now in November. She moved on with her life. He moved on with his life. They're divorced. They did the civil paperwork. Totally divorced. Then they said, you know what? I'm miserable. Right? I don't want to admit it, but I'm miserable without her. She's sitting there in her, like the rom-coms. She's sitting there in her room, eating ice cream, miserable without him, but doesn't want to admit it. Right? Then they bump into each other again, right? And they say, we have to get married again, right? Let's do it again. They have to do it as if it was never done before. Now they don't have to have a huge, massive wedding, but it has to be republicized, new dowry, new witnesses. And in this case, because she was already married once before, she does not need her wali's permission. In the Maliki school, she needs her wali to be there to represent her rights and to fight for her rights. But she's more like a hired lawyer. Like a hired lawyer, you fight for me. But the moment, if there's a disagreement, you're the client, you're the guy paying, you're the one who has the final say. So likewise, when a woman has already married, she ends up having, the wali cannot force her or stop her. He can advise her, that's it.
Does it reset the count of 3, or are they still on?
No, it doesn't reset the count of 3. That's the first divorce.
It's still the first.
Yeah. Almost that is a good thumbnail. You know what works on that thumbnail? Outline the NBF 358. Outline it. Keep it white and put a black outline around it. A white box around it. Like make it white, yeah, like that. And then put a colored box around that. Brown or something, the same color as what's under trip. To separate from the white of that and the white of the thope. Up to you. Neither the divorce petition or the final divorce decree contains explicit language. There's no distinction here between the petition of the decree, as long as there is no explicit language. I have to ask about that because there is marriage, divorce by anything that would indicate divorce. So I have to ask about that. Right, I think.
Like your family or something.
Yeah, if a man says we're done, right? That could be enough for a divorce if that's if that's language in that culture that is a phrase that indicates divorce. It's divorce. Even just the word talaq, saying just the word talaq. All right, that's where you're going? Talaq.
Really?
Just divorce. Yeah. So we have to see if I want to ask another scholar about that, because we have this concept that the understanding also can imply divorce. Okay. Atiq Rahman says, my man need answers. Yeah. We'll help him out, inshallah. No problem.
So many people, they think they have to do the 3.
Hmm?
They think they have to say.
This is such a big problem. You have to repeat this over and over in every other Jummah, that do not say talaq 3 times. The poor Muslim kid is raised that you wash your mouth 3 times, you make rinse your nose 3 times, wash your face 3 times, your arm 3 times, right? So he assumes everything's got to be done 3 times. So he does talaq 3 times. But I say, brother, your analogy doesn't make sense, because when you got married, you didn't say kabiltu, 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 right? Right.
Yeah.
So
That is, he's right. He's right.
some Desis do that.
Yeah.
That's
Kabula,
what.
kabula, kabula. Yeah.
That's why the poor guy's confused, and he says talaq, talaq, talaq.
I believe this, by the way. Like growing up, until like,
I'm not here to offend anybody, but I'm about to.
he's gonna hurt all
Okay.
things.
The whole marriage process from the subcontinent,
Yeah.
highlight,
Not to be
delete, start over. Right? There are too many bugs in the code, right? Start the whole thing from scratch. Right? I even heard recently, and again, I don't want to offend people, but I know some people are going to get upset, that you have to have 7 parties. Every wedding has to have 7 parties. Have you guys heard of that?
basically, yeah.
So that could be a little bit of takalluf, though, right? That's a little bit of, it's takalluf. It's exhausting people. People don't want to, Omar, you know how to do this? If you want to do that, you make it really small, peaking, subtle. It has to, because this is a very gorgeous picture. Now you're going to stick a kangaroo in there. It doesn't make sense. Shrink him more. Make him really small.
It's not working.
Yes. Okay. See that? That maybe you could pull that. Maybe you could pull that off. But does it work, or is it very?
That looks awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Just make him a bit smaller. Make it smaller and crooked. Yeah. There you go. So that's good. That's good. He really wanted the kangaroo, and alhamdulillah, we helped him make it happen. That's really good. Make him crooked more, so he's like he's.
I would want like looking like that.
Yeah, like the one that you get. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's take another question, but we didn't hear about Matic 356's
I
question.
tried to find it. It's nothing.
Okay. Jack and Jill says no, there has to be 10 parties. What is the halala? The halala is part of Islam if it's genuine. The halal and muhallil is that in the case of the 3-time divorce, the Sharia says, oh husband, you're not taking this seriously. Divorce and remarry, take her back. Divorce, take her back, or remarry. Now, after 3 times, you have to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
How are you going to be thankful for this woman? She has to marry another man genuinely, not just consummate the marriage, go into a room. No, actually have intercourse. Okay. Then, if they get divorced, only then can you remarry them. So many people, they lie essentially, and they get a fake marriage. They go into a room. They come out. Did you consummate? Yes. They lie, and then she can remarry the other guy. He divorces her and they remarry the other guy. Allah knows that you're sinful in what you did that. Yeah, Allah knows you're sinful in doing that.
Divorced them 3 times.
Yeah. So Allah knows you're sinful for that. But we can only judge by what we see in front of us. We don't know what you plotted, and we don't know what your intention are. We may see it's obvious, but we in Islam only judge by the obvious. So that marriage was valid. You said that you consummated. There's no way for us to know. You now divorce her, and so now she can remarry the first guy. And sometimes this muhallal will take some money for this.
Only in the 3 divorces.
Yeah, only upon the 3.
Khula or
No.
something.
Well, no. Does it matter if a woman says talaq, says Haley Edwards? No. In Islam, divorce is not in the hands of the woman. Even khula. Khula means a woman requests the divorce. The man doesn't want to divorce his wife. She requests the divorce. He says, okay, I mean, well, soften the blow for me a little bit. All right? Because if once she says, I want to divorce you, you're not going to have a happy marriage anyway. So he has to do it eventually. So, but he's going to do it on terms now. You know, like in war, all right, you win, but terms, let's talk terms.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose my wife and losing my whole family and all this, so you're going to give me some money. So she's going to pay him back the dowry or more or less, whatever they agree on. Any number that they agree, whatever is reasonable that they agree on. He takes the check. Thank you very much. You're divorced. So the divorce is still in his hands, but she initiated it. He didn't want to do it. But he's stuck now. When a woman says, I don't love you, I don't want to be with you, you're not going to force her, right? But it's in his hands still. And he divorces her. That's called a khula. So if a woman says, I divorce you, there's no legal merit to that. La ibrata bihi, right? I want to divorce you, divorce me. That's, yeah, now we can talk. And so, okay, I'll divorce you now that you want to be me, you hate me so much. Fine. What am I going to get back? I spent so much on you. I don't want to divorce you, right? All that. So she will give him some sum of money and he'll go and give her the divorce. That's the khula, and that's the question from Haley Edwards.
This is stepping back a little bit, but like, how does a prenup play into a part into any of this at all? American legally speaking, if they have a prenup,
any agreed upon matters in the marriage, they just can't negate the purpose of marriage. That's number one. So what is the purpose of marriage? To be alone, to be intimate. Can't negate sexuality. Purpose of marriage, to be taken care of, to be protected. So the purposes of marriage cannot be negated. Also, you cannot make something unlawful. Okay. But you can say, if you do this, then our marriage is out.
same thing with the extra brides. If you do that, then we're divorced. You know?
Yeah, for example.
Now, by the way.
Yeah, you could do that. You can't say you're not allowed to do this. You say, if you do it, we have no deal. Yeah.
Or is it already nullified, or is it like, or can she?
Okay, so she could say, it could be different. It could be, the moment you do this, our marriage is nullified, even if I don't know about it. And I come to discover it later on. If he agrees upon it. If he agrees.
If they didn't realize it, then they like be sinful.
Yeah. No, that marriage is nullified. If he knows about it, let's say she says, if you put another bottle of alcohol to your mouth and you take a sip of alcohol, this marriage is null and void and divorce takes place. And he says, yes, I agree. I'm totally off the bottle. And he signs off. Then one day he does intentionally drink. He knows the deal. It's nullified. Now, the other way is that if you do this, then I have the choice. But she doesn't have the choice indefinitely. She has the choice the moment she hears about it. For that sitting, that's it. That measures. If she gets up and she says, no, I decided to forgive him.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not indefinite.
It's not indefinite. No, it's not indefinite. It's just for a set period of time that she has the choice. She can think about it. She can look at the affairs of the family and think if he's really was just an accident, she's going to forgive it or not, and then she makes a decision. But it's within that sitting. That's it. Yep. We have to, some things you have to talk about all the time that is this stuff, right? Because people don't know how to get married. They're trying to get married, and within marriage, they're having trouble. Is it permissible for two friends along with their spouses to go eating out together and sit at one table across one another while partaking of the meal? There is an ayah of Quran which mentions لا جناح عليكم أن تأكلوا جميعا أو تأكلوا أشتاتا, and many of the ulama have mentioned that if two couples have invited one another, basically, that's what you're saying. Let's say you invited your neighbors and you sit all at one table, provided that there is modesty observed in their behavior, then this is permitted. Do that. The other, thank you, Victoria, for the other main tribes. There are 3 main tribes, not 5, she says. Okay, sorry about that. Hausa, Yoruba, and the Igbo. Hey, what about the Fulanis? What about the Fulanis? The Yoruba, the Igbo, the Hausa, The Fulanis. Look it up. Someone look it up. Victoria, we have an objection here. What about the Fulanis? Ruling on handshaking with the opposite gender? لا يجوز. Let's
How's a Fulani? I think it's the same.
House and Fulani are one of the same?
I think it's the same.
Shad.
Here it says how's the dash.
Yoruba originated from Arabs. That's why it's called Yarub. Yeah. So what about the Mawalid this year? NBIC, September 13th. Al-Maqasid, September 14th. Prophetic Living, September 15th. Joint, big group, mass Mawlid. We're not calling Mawlid, we're calling Celebration of the Final Prophet. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, September 21. Okay. And this is a little soft advertisement for it. It's going to be by registration. You have to register. That information will come soon. Because there are codes in these places that we go to. You can't just go. You can't just show up. There are codes. Fire codes, limits on how many people can go to the location that we're renting out. Eunice L is saying we're done in anger. Is it talaq? If there are words that indicate talaq, then yes.
You mean the understanding of it?
Yeah. Here, Ubiquitous supports us. We have a lot of support in the chat by highlight delete. Ubiquitous says 100%. Many of us are already removing all these customs and simplifying it. This approach is becoming more and more popular. Agree. Wedding, small nikah, walima. Thank you. That's it. You agree to a marriage, you publicize that. These two people are, that's so that no other man can come and propose. And when you see these families constantly meeting, you know why. Because they're engaged.
So that was my other
Okay.
thing, too. The marriages now, they're saying no social media, no nothing.
What do you mean?
They're not publicly saying it. It's very people that know, they know they're getting married, but nobody else publicly knows. Does that make sense?
If they had any kind of showing in public,
Yeah.
where to the point that it would be impossible to hide that they're married, that's sufficient.
Yeah.
They don't have to put it on social media if they don't want to. So you agree? You tell your close people. You're going to tell your people that he's engaged now. I'm engaged, right? Word spreads. There's no like official. There's nothing official in Sharia or anything about that except word spreads now. But there is, because now once you learn that a woman is engaged, you can't go propose to her. Okay, so it's become sinful to do that. So now there's a nikah, little nikah in a masjid, beautiful, nice little event. Usually no food there, maybe some sweets, and that's it. Then you have the walima. Walima could be the same day, could be right away. Nikah, walima in one shot, and that's it. قُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ الَّذِي فِيهِ تَسْتَفْتِيَانِ. Usually the guys will take the guy out first before the wedding, right? Women will have a little party. That's all fine. But it's like all that was within what's reasonable. But now we're going to have to rent an elephant and all that crazy stuff, and 3 days, and people traveling and booking tickets. That's what we call in Sharia takalluf, excess and burdening the people. And now it's becoming a big hassle. And
A lot of these customs, they had a legitimate
Mhm.
origin. Yeah, but like a lot of things, the purpose kind of got lost and forgotten.
yeah.
I asked like Hamza Maqbul,
Mhm.
about like what they call rasams.
Yeah.
These sort of like traditions. He said a lot of them were to like show status, basically,
Mm.
and to basically like because status is everything, right? Like here it's money, but over there it's like
Oh, so they have multiple parties to show status.
yeah, like and,
Yeah,
and
that's not.
specific
That's
things
really.
like
That's
that.
makes it even worse.
Yeah.
That makes it even worse. Do men Awrah have to be covered even in private? When you are not in front of other people, it is, and you're all home alone, it is still recommended for you to cover your Awrah because you have noble angels. In the bathroom, you don't have to cover your Awrah. But in the home, and between husband and wife, when they close the door, the angels leave. When they're being intimate, the angels leave.
When you say just in general,
Yeah.
it's not just it's the off of pious Muslims. Right?
When we say custom,
Yeah.
we mean the custom of practicing Muslims and imams and shuyukh at that time. Okay. Why did you choose the Maliki madhab? Well, most Maliki will choose the Maliki madhab simply because of how close Malik was, right, to the sources of the Sharia. Yeah. Yeah. No, I want to respect all the other schools. But how close is Malik? Right? What is he narrating? He's narrating the ijma' or the jumhur or the popular consensus of what the scholars are doing on matters of judgment. Remember, there is no fiqh in qat'i verses of Quran. Okay? Qat'i verses, explicit verses of the Quran, we don't need fiqh in them. Fiqh comes in new matters or comes in speculative language, not definitive language. And that's where we need fiqh. And we need scholars to tell us, what do we do with these verses? So Talib Razi says, I heard from a Hausa Fulani friend, but there are Fawla all over West Africa. Talib Razi is getting involved in the, I think Fulani in Nigeria are married into the Hausa. Try to get there's Nigerian politics. No, it's not politics. Nigerian little sociology here. But there's also, I didn't bring up the Bengali situation. You know, there's issues in Bangladesh.
Oh,
yeah. And my opinion on that, I do have an opinion on it, even though it's not my country, but, and also many of my Bengali friends who I talked to, they totally agreed. So the issue in Bangladesh is that there's a certain percentage of the jobs and all the positions have to go to the lineage of those who fought for Bengali freedom. And now it's getting to the point that people are fighting this back, right? They're like, what is this, right? This is not fair. Just because he's born this way, it's like a caste system. Everything in the subcontinent ends up in a caste system, subhanAllah al-azim. I'm not hating on the subcontinent, although I am actually hating on them, right? But, okay, so let's look at this. Tell me if this doesn't make sense. I say everything, there should be exceptions made for that first generation of soldiers who fought for Bengali and their kids. How's that? That's totally fair. Because those kids could have lost their dad, right? Maybe he did get injured, maimed, or he has spent 5 years fighting this war, 3 years fighting this war. That means he wasn't getting educated. He wasn't putting up a shop or something like that, or building up his career, or building up his wealth. But only the kids. That's it. It can't trickle down to the next generation and the next and the next. And also these generations are increasing. Yeah. Is that a controversial thing that I just said in Bengali?
I don't know. He's next door to us, but
Huh? He agreed with me. Brother Jalal totally agrees with me. Makes so much sense. Give it to the soldiers and all their kids. But that's it. What did his grandkid suffer or almost suffer? Nothing. Would it be wise for a sister to bring up income mahar with potential candidate when men in family are too embarrassed to do it and I tell her to lower it? Sarah, you brought up a question here. Somebody said to me yesterday, in some cultures, the wali is literally a formality and not actually a wali. He's not actually being a wali. The wali has to do it. If he's not doing his job, you fire him as a wali and you bring someone else to do it. Right? Well, you can't fire him as a wali if it's your dad. He is your wali. But I highly suggest you find somebody else who is capable of talking to the husband to be the proposing man about finances, because that is part of the deen. Is not his religious obligation to cover the basic expenses of the home. It is a religious obligation. And the Prophet ﷺ said, take the one of deen. In tardawna deenahu wa khuluqa fazawwijuh. If you accept his deen and his character, marry him, right? Accept him in marriage. So part of his deen is to cover the costs. That's a religious obligation that he has.
I think if the Prophet someone approached him,
Yeah.
asked him about two people. I think one of them was Muawiyah. And the Prophet didn't tell him like Muawiyah, like in a manner of speaking, like Muawiyah's broke.
Someone said that.
Yeah, no, the Prophet
Oh, really?
I
Subhanallah.
don't remember this.
Ajib.
Yeah.
So so for this sister who's asking this question, you definitely need to find someone to do this, and if it's they're not doing it, your dad will still be your wali, but you have to find someone else to do it. Is it makruh for men and women not getting married by personal choice? We have to say that marriage is a sunnah, and purposely leaving a sunnah maybe can enter into karahiyah, because there are harms in that such a society. There's harms to such a society. Many people aren't marrying, and I'll tell you one reason why, is because they get so built up in their life and career and personality, and they're such complicated figures now. And I love this example. Were you there when I gave this example? Omar, were you there? We got 2 little restaurants in our town. Yeah. Afghan Kebab and Grill and Douglas Pizza. Owner-operated restaurants. These 2 guys, if they wanted to make, to have a merger, it's probably 4 meetings of negotiations. That's it. They can merge and become one restaurant, one entity. But if Burger King and Chipotle wanted to have a merger, how long is that going to be? Years, right? Same thing now. You got guys with amazing resumes, and you have women with amazing resumes. How are these 2 going to get married, right? It's going to take negotiations and talks and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So that's why they're not getting married. There's so much, it's so complicated. Your life is so complicated. That doesn't mean bad, but it's complicated. Her life is so complicated. Sometimes it's as simple as my job is in one part of the state, your job is in another part.
Since we're on the topic already, what about
Yep.
those Muslims, by the way, that get married but refuse to have kids because either the world isn't good enough to have kids, or they just refuse because they're too busy with their own lives?
Not having kids temporarily is okay. Not having kids as a belief is not okay.
As a permanent thing, not
yeah.
having kids, yeah?
I believe that's not okay. No, I would say that's not okay. Allah knows best.
Against the spirit of this.
Yeah. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, takatharu, increase your numbers, right? You know how much blessing comes with kids? And not just unseen blessings. Things you could say, things you could talk about. Like, people could be totally down and out, but then they remember, oh, all right, we got soccer practice.
Yeah.
That'll just totally distract you, right? So many things when you have kids, the benefits that are there for the parent, you can't count them. Faisal says, when are you planning to come to a trip to Canada? I mean, I love to come to Canada, but these days we're very busy here. Yeah. So many good questions, but we got to do the dua. Let's load it up, Omar. Kinetic nomad revert Muslima seeking marriage through apps, has no one, can be wali. How does she speak or meet with men and keep it halal? You do your best to find Muslim friends in the masjid, or you go to the imam of the masjid, and usually imams of the masjid, they need to help you, and they will help you. And if you can't do that, you do your best at it. You do your best. Is it possible that a woman would be totally on her own? Of course it is. A woman is possible. You can fathom it, yani. A woman out in Wisconsin somewhere enters Islam by reading, by watching videos. Maybe she watched Muhammad, our man in Australia, say ew.
Brother, what's that? What's that, brother?
Crazy. He must have been really drunk. I'm not Muhammad Hublis, the guy they're talking about somebody else. But let's say you can fathom a Muslim woman, a girl becomes Muslim in a state with no other Muslims, right? And she may not have a wali, and she may meet a guy online. All this is fathomable. We're not saying it happened. We're saying it's fathomable to happen. It's possible.
That was perfect timing for that.
But you know what? I need to be able to hear it when you click it.
Yeah, you guys didn't hear it, but
Oh, you know what?
if you watch it, you'll hear it.
You know what? If there's a wire that's long enough, I can have an earpiece.
Oh yeah,
And we do have one of those. Because Omar now has a little studio thingy.
Yeah.
And he could add sounds to it.
Oh, that's right.
So he could add whatever sound he wants. Right?
That happens a couple of
Yeah.
like a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, it was an accident actually. I love by accident. Like I'm just sitting here and like everyone's saying, "Why is there rainbows playing in the back?" I'm like, what do you mean?
Was this a stream about Peter Sanders or something, or around that?
Yeah.
Something after
You
that.
were interviewing, I think you were interviewing somebody.
Yep.
And like these noises kept playing in the background.
Oh, yeah. That he kept accidentally hitting something.
Yeah, I don't.
Talib Razi says, could we say there is a metaphysical compensation for the angels leaving or wudu being broken when husband and wife are together? The answer to your question is that when a husband and wife are intimate, they actually should mention the dua. There is a dua for this because angels are gone. You don't have wudu. Now shaitan can get involved. Right? And that dua is the dua for that. You say that and shayateen would leave at that point. Let's go to the dhikr and close with that. We have we need dua. We need to make a lot of dua. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا فتحنا لك فتحا مبينا ليغفر لك الله ما تقدم من ذنبك وما تأخر ويتم نعمته عليك ويهديك صراطا مستقيما وينصرك الله نصرا عزيزا وكان عند الله وجيها في الدنيا والآخرة ومن المقربين وجهت وجهي للذي فطر السماوات والأرض بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نصر من الله فتح قريب بشر المؤمنين يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا أنصار الله كما قال عيسى بن مريم الحواريين من أنصاري إلى الله قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم أعيذ نفسي بالله تعالى من كل ما يسمع بأذنين وبصر بعينين ويمشي برجلين وبطش بيدين ويتكلم بشفتين حصنت نفسي بالله الخالق الأكبر من شر ما أخاف وأحذر من الجن والإنس ويحذرون عز الجار وجل ثناؤه وتقدست أسماءه ولا إله غيره اللهم نجارك في نهور أعدائي وأعوذ بك من شرورهم وتحيلهم ومكرهم ومكائدهم أطفئ نار من أراد بي عداوة من الجن والإنس يا حافظ يا حفيظ يا كافي يا محيط سبحانك يا رب ما أعظم شأنك وأعز سلطانك تحصنت بالله بأسماء الله بآيات الله وملائكة الله وأنبياء الله ورسل الله والصالحين من عباد الله أحصنت نفسي بلا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم اللهم احرسني بعينك التي لا تنام واكنفني بكنفك الذي لا يرام وارحمني بقدرتك علي فلا أهلك وأنت ثقتي ورجائي يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا غياث المستغيثين يا دارك الهالكين يا دارك الهالكين يا دارك الهالكين اكفني شر كل طارق يطرق بليل أو نهار إلا طارقا يطرق بخير إنك لكل شيء قدير بسم الله أرقي نفسي من كل ما يؤذي ومن كل حاسد الله شفائي بسم الله رقيت اللهم رب الناس أذهب الباس اشفي أنت الشافي وعافي أنت المعافي لا شفاء إلا شفاءك شفاء لا يغادر سقما ولا ألما يا كافي يا وافي يا حميد يا مجيد ارفع عني كل تعب شديد واكفني من الحد والحديد والمرض الشديد والجيش العديد واجعل لي نورا من نورك وعزا من عزك ونصرا من نصرك وبهاء من بهائك وعطاء من عطائك وحراسة من حراستك وتأييدا من تأييدك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام والمواهب العظام سألك أن تكفيني من شر كل ذي شر إنك أنت الله الخالق الأكبر وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه والحمد لله رب العالمين ظاهرا وباطنا وعلى كل حال يا أرحم الراحمين. A few minutes for dua, inshallah. If you're not aware of the dua of Wednesday, it's a time where dua can be accepted between Dhuhr and Asr on Wednesdays. Bismillah. صلى الله وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. See you all tomorrow, folks. جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.